So in this lecture, we'll discuss some of the downsides of Internet of Things technology, some of the risks, and especially the privacy and security issues that come up when you have IoT devices as pervasive as they are doing things and out of your control to some extent. So one advantage that we listed in the last lecture was that you don't have to depend on people as much, right? You can depend on your IoT device to do things for you, and you don't have to deal with people as much. So the downside of that is potential social isolation, right? You don't have to leave your house if you don't want to. You can be a hermit, stay in your house, never walk out, and have everything come to you, right? Now, usually it doesn't go to that extreme, but it can happen. That it depends on the mindset of the person who's using the device, but if you need to interact with people less, you have less of an excuse to go out there and deal with people. And this picture showing all these people looking at their cell phones, this is a constant problem, right? People looking at their phones, even in social, quote-unquote, social engagements. Say you're at a party, and people at the party, which is meant for human interaction, reading their cell phones and looking down at their devices rather than actually interacting. So you can have this risk, this increased risk of social isolation because you don't have to interact with people. Another big problem with IoT is that you're now more dependent on technology and all the infrastructure that comes along with it. So if things go down, like for instance my email, right? And my email, and this is not even really an Internet of Things issue, but email, I use it on a standard computer, right, or my phone too if I want to. But if email goes down, it's a serious impediment to me, right? I need my email on a daily basis, really an hourly basis. I need to get emails from people. And so when that type of thing goes down, it's a problem. For work and even for personal life, right? I communicate with some people personally through email or texting or whatever communication technology you use. When you're using it through IoT, through the internet and through your devices, when your device goes down or when the network itself goes down, it's a big problem for you. So power outages in general are a big problem, right? Because all your devices are going down. I mean, their charges are going to die even if they're on battery. But if your device goes down, so for instance, if my phone, so this happens with my wife all the time. She has a phone, I won't say the brand. She has a popular phone. When she gets an update on her phone, like she just recently got an update on her phone, the thing just hangs up. Regularly, just yesterday, she's talking to me, suddenly it hangs up. She talks to me again, it hangs up for no reason, right? Because of the update that was supposed to improve her device, right? So now her being dependent on this device all the time, when she gets an update and it goes wrong, when there are bugs in the software, it's a much more serious problem. And buggy software is always a problem on a desktop, say, but when it's something that you use a lot. So for instance, if it's a life critical thing, like we talked about insulin pumps a couple of lectures back, right? If that thing has a bug, that's a serious problem. I mean, you can die off of that, right? A pacemaker has a bug, there's a serious problem. And these things have actually happened in medical devices too, that you've had these bugs and people have died. We won't go into them. I don't have slides on these right now. But there are devices that this has happened. The more these IoT devices get integrated into our lives, the more dependent we are. So when they go wrong, it's a much bit worse problem for us. Privacy and security. So another property of these IoT devices is that they're recording information. They are observing us, right? Now, presumably for our benefit. But they are observing us a lot, and they are pervasive, so everywhere. So for instance, your cell phone. That thing is observing your location, right? If you have your location services on, which most people have on, because a lot of applications depend on those services, you have that on, it is reporting your GPS, your location at all times. And it can easily be sending that data back to Apple or whoever your manufacturer is, right? And that happens all the time. This type of data is being tracked by your phone and sent back to some central location. Now, maybe they're using it for good purposes, to help you. Like having your location means that when you're looking for a restaurant, you don't have to report your location. It just knows, and it can tell you where all the nearby restaurants are. So that can be beneficial. But it is tracking you all the time. Health monitors. They're tracking your health information, right, all the time, and sending them on a network to some cloud server. So, there's important information about your health that is being transmitted over the network and stored in some remote server. TV watching habits, media watching, whatever media you're watching, that type of thing is, so say you've got a new TV, it can track, in fact, it typically records what you watch. In fact, like my DVR, it flags, when I'm looking at the list of TV shows, it flags which ones it thinks I'll want to watch, right? Now, how does it figure that out? It's tracking my activity, knows what type of shows I've watched in the past, finds similar shows and suggests them to me. So that's a benefit, right? But just understand that it is tracking everything that you're watching on your TV or your DVR, things like this. Actually, we see this all the time with people must have interacted with this when you buy something online. So one thing I do is I build quadcopters with my son. You know, we build quadcopters. I have a research project on this. Remote control, right? Whenever I make a purchase, like a quadcopter purchase, suddenly all the ads I see are for quadcopter parts, right? Motors and RC control and all this. And you must have interacted with this, right? It's tracking what you're buying and then just throwing ads at you. It's doing it for marketing purposes, but it's throwing ads at you according to, you know, things that you have bought in the past. So purchasing habits, right? Cell phone or whatever device you're purchasing on. If, say, it's your refrigerator making purchases for you, food purchases for you, something like that, the fridge itself can track that data and give it to some third party. Driving habits. So cars have lots of sensors about the speed and things like that, and what if you're hitting the brakes, something like that. And car incident reporting, the insurance agencies can use that when you're trying to get money back for your car. So say you crash your car and you say, look, I was hitting the brake, and they say, well, the car says you weren't hitting the brake, so you owe us this much money, right? So that type of data is being recorded, sent to insurance agencies, and they can use that against you. So data can be used to market to you. I already mentioned this, but the ads that you see on your computer or on your phone, those things happen. They pick ads basically selectively based on what your purchase habits are. So if they know you're interested in buying a particular type of device, you'll get ads related to that. Health problems. So if they know you're on a certain type of drug, they'll give you ads for related drugs, for related issues, things like this. So that's probably the most popular use of this data is marketing, right? You give permission to the person you purchased the device from. You give them permission to use that data in those long agreements that you click OK to. So you know when you buy a device, buy a phone, it says, or put an application on your phone, and it says, oh, do you accept the terms of the agreement terms? And you don't read that, but you click OK. So in that you are giving up all ownership of all data, often. Right? So all this data that's being tracked, it can legally be given to some third-party agency, and then they can sell that data whenever they want to. So it's hard to keep track of your data. You don't know who has your data because you agreed at some point to allow them to own that data. And it could, insurance agencies. So yeah, so the car accidents, right? Car insurance. They can track the data about your car, see how you were driving at the time of the accident, and use that information. It could be used to your advantage. They can say, oh, you did hit the brakes, so it's not your fault. Or they could say, look, you didn't hit the brakes, so it is your fault, right? So it can be used either way. Also, undiagnosed health problems. So this is a little creepy, but this can certainly happen. So insurance agencies are basically, they're statisticians. They do statistics to determine like health insurance. How much they're going to charge you, they do based on your state of your health, right? So they can predict what the state of your health will be based on available data. So for instance, say you've got Fitbit, and Fitbit is recording data about your health, how your heart rate, and things like this. That data can be used by an insurance agency to figure out how much they want to charge you. They can say, look, based on your health right now, we can predict that in a few years you might come down with this disease, and so we're going to charge you more. So this type of information is very useful to different agencies in different ways. And you should be aware that while these IoT devices are beneficial to you, they are storing data, and that data may or may not be in your control. Security is another thing. So this data can often this data is held in the cloud somewhere, right? So say Fitbit, it tracks your data, it sends it to some cloud servers. Now this is medical information, and you would like it to remain private. And they maybe try to keep it private, but there are hackers, right? There are people who steal data, and you must have heard about this in the news. And so the data can be attacked at the cloud server, and it's out of your control. So if that data isn't maintained in a secure way, so what we're showing over here is basically a rough picture of an encryption algorithm. But the idea is that data would need to be encrypted. If it's private data, health data, you'd like that to be encrypted on the cloud server. But you, as a user, don't have any control, direct control over whether encryption is being used, or maybe it's not being used consistently. You can't control that directly, right? That's up to the cloud server. So you are left to trust them to take care of your data. And often these agencies are not trustworthy. And I don't want to name names, but if you've heard about any hacks about particular companies having their databases stolen, and it's happened many times over the last few months, the last few years, that data isn't being held in a secure way, and then your private data is stolen. So this can happen. Thank you.